You see, something's going to happen.
What? What's going to happen?
Something wonderful.
What?
I understand how you feel. You see, it's all very clear to me now.
Welcome to the Occult Rejects. This episode, I got a special guest. I got another person from North Carolina on, so this is very exciting for me. But before we do get to the guest, let me introduce the rest of the rejects that are on the show. Julia, what is going on? Julia from Cosmic Peach, please let everybody know what your deal is.
Thanks for having me again, Nick. Looking forward to this one, Cosmic Peach Podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. This one is right up my alley. I love paranormal stuff. Glad to be here.
Of course, hell yeah, and thank you for coming on. And we got Brooke from Dark Florida coming on with us. Obviously, if I got the paranormal, we got to get her on with us. So what is going on, Brooke? Thank you very much for joining us. How are you?
Hi, I'm happy to be here with all the fellow rejects. I'm excited. You can also find Dark Florida Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and really excited to get into some of his stories. North Carolina is a spooky place.
Yeah. I'm honestly, I'm looking forward to hear about places I could possibly go to myself now, because I don't know much about this state at all. So this is like research for me. And we got the Headless Giant. What is going on, my man? Thank you very much for being here as usual. And you're muted, just to let you know real quick.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm the Headless Giant. You can find me on X and YouTube. And if you've got any paranormal stories, I'd like to get them from you and put them on my show on Thursday nights. You can email me your paranormal stories at the Headless Giant Podcast at gmail.com.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And finally, to the guest himself, Jason. I'm sorry to ask you this. I probably should ask you before. Is it Spooky CLT or Spooky Charlotte? Is the CLT just short for Charlotte? How do you pronounce it?
I say CLT,
okay.
But Spooky Charlotte is the message I'm communicating by saying that.
Awesome.
It's the airport code for it, and it's like one of those things that you'll see on t-shirts and hats. It's just part of our identity now.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So after I screwed that up, it's Spooky CLT. Please let everybody know where they can find like your stuff, or, or anything you want to advertise, or other shows you've even been on. If you want to plug it.
Yeah, I mean, if you look for Spooky CLT, that's me. No one else is doing it. So I'm primarily on Instagram at SpookyCLT, and then there is a SpookyCLT.com as well. That's more so event postings.
Oh, damn. I did not even know that. I'll have to go check that out.
It's not as active. It's kind of my archive for like when I've been on the different segments and stuff. I usually post about it there.
Oh, okay.
Just have a list going on.
Well, very nice. And I will include all those links in the bottom when the show drops. I guess, just to get into it, what even got you into the paranormal?
Always been into the paranormal I say spooky because spooky is such like a broad term. It covers the paranormal, and that's definitely a focus, but that's not it. Aspects of just real history are spooky. True crime, I consider spooky. Folklore, spooky. It's a little bit of everything, and I know paranormal covers that as well. But yeah, I think I've just always been into that. Now, the reason I started Spooky Charlotte specifically was because I'm not from Charlotte. I am a transplant. It sounds like you're a transplant to North Carolina. We are not alone. I grew up in Connecticut predominantly.
Oh, New York.
Although I was a Navy brat, so that had a part to do with it. My family on my dad's side has deep connections and roots in North Carolina. So when I was deciding where to go to school, I went to UNC Wilmington, and I've just been here since, except for I was in Florida for a bit working for Disney. I did their college program. But I moved to Charlotte coming up on 10 years. It was 2016. And I understood that the culture and like the personality, the reputation it had was like Charlotte has no culture. It's brand new in the eyes of a lot of people, but that's because there's a lot of like skyscrapers that have just gone up in the past 20 years. It's just grown in a way that not a lot of other cities can. And because of that, we have lost a lot of our older buildings. There are still a lot around, but I'm doing my best to show people that Charlotte does have history, it does have culture, and I'm doing it the only way I know I can do it well, and that's by doing it through telling ghost stories. And that includes true crimes, Charlotte, North Carolina, and I've been collecting folklore, things that you won't find in, history books, like the urban legends, per se, or we do have some like area specific cryptids. So I'm just trying to be a source for people who are into that. So if they're interested in spooky stuff and they want to know more about Charlotte, they can do both at the same time. And the page became what it is because I was trying to be the account that I was looking for when I was learning about Charlotte, and that's how I did it. And almost 10 years later, I've been having the account for 8 years. I've learned so much, but also realized that like I have not skimmed the surface. There's a lot more to go, and I'm going to be doing this for as long as I want to, learning something new. So that was my long-winded explanation of what Spooky CLT is.
No, that's awesome. Just real quick to ask you, I don't know if you happen to know, have you ever been to Greenville in North Carolina? Or you know that area at all?
Where ECU is?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where my brother went to school. So I visited him there before. So I'm familiar with the college bars, and that's about it.
I wouldn't even know which ones to go to.
It was 10 plus years ago, so I'm sure they're all different now.
Would you say Charlotte's more of a city than Greenville?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
dude.
I thought so. Because when you said skyscrapers, I was like, I don't think I've seen one in Greenville.
Charlotte's always within like the top 15 places of where people are moving to.
Oh, okay.
Past 20 years, like
good.
We're a big city.
Yeah, I like
How dare you?
No, I like Greenville because it has less population. That's just to be totally honest with you, or it seems like it. Yeah, but
No.
So like, all right. I know cemeteries is a big thing of yours. You want to go into that and talk about any of that?
Yeah, so I've gotten super involved with cemetery preservation. Just because if you're into spooky stuff, that's where you're inevitably gonna end up. So luckily, our Historic Landmarks Commission has been doing events probably once a year, headstone cleaning events, where you can like learn, and we'll provide the equipment, and clean these historic headstones. And I love that idea so much. I've kind of rolled with it, and I've been brokering like the Landmarks Commission with other cemeteries to get them to do it there. The last one we had was just, I think, in March, and we are cleaning this 250-year-old cemetery. There's hundreds of people buried there, but now it's right in the middle of the city, so it's gone through years of being around people. So there's not a lot of headstones left. There's probably 100 or so, but we got out there and we cleaned them all. So we're using like a type of solution where it's going to keep making it look better over the next few years. Personally, my favorite thing lately that I've done with cemeteries is I've raised the money to fix the headstone of a man named Charlie Hawk, and he was killed by a lion. And that's what his headstone says. It says Charlie Hawk killed by a lion, happens in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I wanted to fix this headstone because it's cool, like it's a cool thing. Charlie doesn't have any family anymore. He died in the 1930s. So I took it upon myself to raise the $3,500. And the way that I raised that money was I portrayed him at a living history event. So I was out there saying like, hey, I'm Charlie Hawk, killed by a lion. I don't have an arm. Asking for money that way.
Oh, he was missing an arm too?
Yeah, his arm got ripped off. That's how the lion got him.
So Twin Peaks.
He was the trainer for the circus, and just one night it didn't go well.
Obviously.
That's way to die, though.
Oh man!
Right?
Hopefully, it was quick. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
no, it wasn't,
right.
because he officially died of infection. So it happened over the course of a few days.
Oh.
But like his circus family who paid for the headstone, like they loved him enough to put on there "killed by a lion" because they're like
that's
people
gangster.
are gonna want to know, like, dude, that's badass. That's something to be proud of. At least the way he was doing it. But yeah, so I got the headstone fixed by way of raising money. And another thing I did was I did a historic tour and a paranormal hunt of a historic building in Uptown Charlotte, and that's the other way that I raised money to do that. And that's kind of been my thing, because this past Friday the 13th, I did something very similar. Now this one's crazy, and I feel like I'm talking, like interject with your own stories at any time, or else I'll keep yapping. But so here in Charlotte, North Carolina, is a company called Morris Costumes, and Morris Costumes is pretty much like what Spirit Halloween is a ripoff of. And I say that because, Spirit Halloween, seasonal, it's fast fashion of Halloween pretty much. Morris Costumes is all year round, and they're the ones supplying actual costumes for like movie sets, school plays, like theater productions. And over the years, they've been doing that at a huge scale. Like I'm talking like the Burton Batman movie scale. They're the ones supplying the costuming for that, all the way down to, like East Meg High School in Charlotte. That's kind of their focus now. And they have this shop on Monroe Road in Charlotte. And they've been saying for a number of years that they believe that it is haunted by Philip Morris, who was the creator of Morris Costumes. He was a showman himself. Like he was a ringmaster for the circus. He had his own like nighttime TV special movies like Elvira pretty much, but for like the entire East Coast. His name was Dr. Evil. Like he was the greatest showman of Charlotte, North Carolina. But now they're saying that he's haunting that location. So I use that as an opportunity to do my next fundraising event for Old Settlers Cemetery, which is that one that we just cleaned, but now we're raising money to fix the headstones. But what the crazy part is y'all believe in Bigfoot? Okay. Bluff Creek, Patterson Gimlin film. Do you think that it is real?
I do, yes.
I don't know that.
You do,
I
yes.
do.
Okay, so
I do.
Philip Morris would tell you that you're wrong.
Oh, that's right. I
he
saw
was the
you.
one who created the suit for it. Like,
Yo, I posted that on Twitter and people got
That's
mad.
that guy?
I posted that shit on Twitter and someone got mad at me.
That guy. People on the internet still get heated about this. But he said that he created the gorilla costume, and then Patterson modified it from the original case, and that's the suit that they used. They did not tell Morris that they were using it for Bigfoot. They said they just needed a gorilla costume. But then Morris, he recognized his suit and he put two and two together. And then ever since then, he was claiming that he's the person who made the suit for the Patterson Gimlin film. So here we are going to the building that he allegedly haunts. Figured, let's ask him. So like the entire evening, our groups, this was all part of the spiel because it's a fundraiser. We wanted to sell tickets. And we did sell out at 85, which now seems small, but at the time it felt like very big. But we asked him, and then across the board, whenever he was asked, like, are you Philip Morris, he would give a detail about himself, like, playing pranks. He had this group led to a specific magic trick box of like the rings, and that was like his main thing. And only his grandson, who was there, who had not told anyone yet, shared with us after. He said he loved whiskey, which the grandson like confirmed that was a problem he had. And then when they were asking, like, did you do the costume for Patterson Gimlin, they had this like, it's like I've never seen it before, an EMF jump rope, pretty much. It's like one of those track things. So the idea is you can see kind of, is it over here? Is it over here? The entire thing lit up for the first time when they asked him, like, did you make this suit? And it said yes, pretty much. So long story short is we asked the guy who claimed that he made the Bigfoot costume if he made it, and we did so while raising money for cemetery preservation. Someone else, please talk.
Double spooky. Raising money to refurbish the headstones, all while making us all look like asses believing in the Bigfoot film and doing a paranormal investigation. Because I always felt like that footage was the footage Like that was the Bigfoot. Like if you were ever going to believe in Bigfoot, that was the video to watch. That's
I just wanna-
crazy.
I just want to admire and thank you for putting the dead to work. They're always just loafing around, not doing anything. And now you're getting them to pay for restoration of headstones. That's perfect.
I agree. We asked him, while we were there, like, are you okay with us being here? And across the boards, it was yes. And we did connect with multiple, there was other spirits things going on as well in the building in different parts. So it was a crazy night, and it was on Friday the 13th.
That's cool.
Like I mentioned before, Dr. Evil, like he's a big part. Like he was like this big guy for spooky culture, and his roots were in Charlotte, North Carolina. Like, what are the chances? So I did my best to teach the gospel of this guy a little bit. And I hope people walked away learning something, as well as, at least hope they were spooked at one point.
It sounds like a good time. I do have a question for you about the headstones, though. I mean, you guys are spending a lot of time I would imagine, to go and clean them and like preserve them and stuff like that. So I always get weird vibes when I go to a cemetery. And sometimes if it's a really old cemetery, if I'm driving past it, like in my car, I won't even look at it because I'm like, I don't want any passengers. Like, I don't want any hitchhikers. I don't know. I'm superstitious. But have you ever experienced anything spending like that much time around the dead bodies?
So I have a story that I'll get into now, because it's a bit of a whammy as well. But the answer is pretty much no. I'm not really sensitive in that way. Like, I'm not the type of person that's going to see apparitions very clearly. I have gotten vibes before, and like I can pick up on that type of stuff, but overall no. And a lot of times when I'm going to cemeteries, like I feel like I'm going in like a contractor into a house that's not mine. Like I'm here on a mission. Like I know where my business is. I'm going to stick to that. Don't bug me, I won't bug you. But anyways, here's my next long-winded story. Last summer, I get a DM on Instagram from this guy saying, hey, there's a cemetery in one of the neighborhoods called Biddleville in Charlotte. I've been getting told that they're doing construction nearby, and in the construction piles, people have seen headstones. There's a cemetery nearby. So I'm like, I should probably look into this. I went out to the cemetery. It was near where I worked. Checked on everything. I did see the construction piles. There's nothing in there, but in the cemetery, it's next to a public park. It's gated off, and it was clear that half the grass was mowed, half the grass was not, because a huge branch had fallen, and it was clearly a few years. We're talking like 8-foot tall bush. But there was headstones in there that you could kind of see, but like completely overgrown. So I was like, man, like all I would need is a couple volunteers and I could get this cleared out. But like, do I have the bandwidth for this right now? People do bring stuff like this to me, and like I kind of have a bunch of projects on the back burner. So I didn't know if I was going to pursue this one. But that weekend was Con Carolinas, which is just like a regular, convention, more specific to Charlotte, but it's pretty popular in the region, and there's a paranormal track, and I was on the paranormal track, so I was there speaking on a bunch of different stuff, and the guest speaker was a guy named Brian Denhausen. No one knows him, and that's okay. He's from up north. His son is a professional wrestler. He has mediumship abilities, and he has his own shtick that he does, and he's got pretty popular from it. But his whole thing is that he'll do readings of you while talking to you, and like it's kind of like reading your tarot card, but he's painting it for you in that moment. So I had it done, and it's not something that I typically do, but I was like, I'll have a chance to talk to the guy. It'll be fine. So here is the picture.
Oh wow, that is interesting.
And he was like, what does this mean to you? And I was like, man, I don't know. I mean, that looks like Prometheus aliens to me, something like that. And he's like, all right, here is a picture of like you in the center. Like I'm the main guy. and there are interdimensional beings chatting with you, but you can't hear them, but you have the ability to, but you can't hear them. So you just got to figure it out how to talk to them. And I was like, damn, I don't know what that means, but whatever. I'm all around all these tarot readers, mediums. I'll bring it to them to see if they can explain. And they're all saying the same type of stuff. Like, you know, you have the ability to talk to them. They're telling you to do something. These white orbs are opportunities. Like, do it. And I'm like, okay, but what is it? And then finally I talked to this one older lady, and she said the same thing, but she stressed the importance of it's going to make an effect on the community. And when she said that, I'm like, damn, Biddleville. Like, there's literally a sign that said Biddleville community, like right across the street from the cemetery. That's when it clicked. So I just, you know, made a flyer. Well, first I researched the cemetery, found out it was the Biddleville community. It's the first post-emancipation Black cemetery in Charlotte. Over 280 people buried there. Only about 12 headstones are left. Like,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you can still see the indentations from people. Like, it's very obvious it's the indentations because it'll be in a clear row, but headstones nowhere to be found.
You know, I was just going to ask that real quick. Just like, so was there pieces of headstones, like these things fell over, or are they just completely gone? That's what I wanted to ask.
Completely gone, but
so,
like some stuff is
taken?
buried, some stuff is knocked over. Like, there's these full, beautiful obelisks just like on the ground sideways. So like, it's an abandoned cemetery. But like, I have found other articles where in the 80s someone found it, cleaned it up, said they're going to take care of it, and then again in 2018 someone found it, said they were going to take care of it again, and now here I am, found it, and now I'm going to take care of it again. Learned about the cemetery. There's all these different like important people for that community, reverends, professors, like just people of prominence. But anyways, I've had 2 events now where I've had people go out and do the landscaping for it, and like, we are looking good. And the first time I did it, we were weed whacking this one section, and a lady came up, and she was a medium, and she was like, hey, just want to let you know that there's this old Black guy with a big bushy white beard following you around, and he looks pleased. So I'm like, great, I did it. You know, maybe these aliens will leave me alone now.
Oh my gosh, that's like kind of spooky in and of itself, right? Even though you're not picking up on it, just to have somebody walk up on you and say, hey, just so you know, there's a ghost on your 6 and he really likes what you've been doing. Keep it up. Yeah, and like, I'm an anxious person to begin with. So like, I had that Catholic guilt of like, man, I need to do something. It's my responsibility. And now I'm like, is that guilt or is it a ghost? Like, now there's another layer to my anxiousness.
And I love the respect that you take for those who have already passed on. I think sometimes not enough respect is given to the dead. So you out here raising money and helping keep those headstones looking nice and showing them the respect and also telling their stories, and the passion for your city definitely shines through. I love when people get passionate about their communities, because there's so much in life that we can't change, but the impact that we make right where we're at is felt far and wide. So I love that you're doing this for your city.
Yeah. I moved a lot overall, and like, looking back, the places where I was like, man, I hated growing up in Connecticut, I'm like, I just didn't try to like it, is the truth. I was just being a grumpy teen. So for wherever you are, I strongly recommend reading the history signs, finding some way to get like, you know, do something hyper niche in your community, and your community will get bigger. Is the moral.
Yeah, that's awesome, because if you could have had the reverse thing happen to you, and you could have got poltergeisted with the way that cemetery was being treated, and have some kind of portal open up in your backyard. But I mean, I just wanted to throw this out there because it goes along to your point. I grew up, well, I've lived a lot of places, but I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, and there is a very famous cemetery there. It's called Lakeview Cemetery. There's been presidents buried there. All the Rockefellers are buried there. Elliot Ness, a lot of people are familiar with him. He's buried there.
But that was
Sorry,
the
go
Chicago
ahead.
movie, right?
Right.
Untouchables?
Yeah. Elliot Ness is kind of like a famous detective kind of guy.
Yeah.
And so you can go anytime. They close it at night so people don't get weird and like go leave burning crucifixes and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
anytime during the day you can go and visit it. And it's actually really cool. And of all places in the world for the Rockefellers to want to be buried, it's like not even a nice side of Cleveland. You know, it's kind of like, you better go with a friend and during the day and maybe
Things
bring
change.
a gun. I don't know. Yeah. But it is like you were saying, though, if you look, there are some really cool niche little things like wherever you live, even if it's like the crack-headed side of Cleveland, you will find something cool there. And President Garfield, he has like this big memorial built in that cemetery, and it's like 3 floors, and when you get to the top you can see all of Cleveland. It's actually kind of amazing. But cemeteries have always fascinated me. I do think you can get haunted though if you fuck around and find out, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, a little aspect to that. So, you know, being a Hellenist, I look at people in terms of like archetypes and how they relate to the gods. And you definitely have
Sorry.
archetypes, like different
Being
story characters and, you know, kind of the similarities between them, right? And you have a real Hades type energy. And a lot of people don't realize it, but the Hades energy archetype is still highly respected and revered in our society. If you think about funeral home directors, they're usually adults. They're usually, I mean, they're males, and they have that fatherly energy in one of the most destructive transition points, you know, and really having that ability to be calm in the storm. That's big, because, you know, even poltergeists, they know I can't mess with that. You know, having the ability to be above the fray and on the outside is something that they really do respect.
Hell yeah.
Brooke, was there anything you wanted
That's
to...
what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wanted to be a funeral director. Isn't that weird? I wanted to be an embalmer. I wanted to cut open dead bodies.
I hate the idea of embalming.
Really?
Like,
oh God!
burying
It's always
people, but like the embalming
fascinating
process.
to me. No,
that ain't right. There's something very deeply wrong about that process.
When I was stationed in Virginia, I got to do a bunch of military honors for funerals, and it's just, you know, it feels like you're really honoring that person as you're performing the duties at the funeral. But, you know, it's something that, seeing from the outside, you can actually add a lot just by your presence. It's kind of an interesting thing.
Headless, I was not nearly as honorable as you'd think in my quest to become a mortician. I thought it was creepy, and like I'm obsessed with Halloween, and I was just wanting to be the creepiest thing I could imagine. And what's creepier than like embalming dead people? But I'm too much of a puss to be left alone in a funeral home by myself. I would have needed a team of advisors to stay with me in case one of them bitches came up out of the grave or some shit like that and was still alive.
They like to hire female morticians, right? You know,
I knew one actually.
Because you know one?
I knew one years
Is she
ago.
creepy?
No, she was actually kind of. When I found out that that's what she did, I was like, "Wait, what the?"
She was hot, wasn't she?
No, she wasn't actually. But no, she was like kind of normal, and I was just like, "Wait, what?" That's like, wow, I never would have thought that's what you did. Yeah, not that there's anything wrong with it. I was just like, wow, I just never would have guessed like you do that.
Right. I do want to visit Charlotte at some point. I had a friend that lived there, and she said it was one of the prettiest places she ever lived.
Good. That's a great thing to say about it.
I had a quick question for you.
Yeah, go for it.
So when Julia was talking about having hitchhikers and things like that happen, I've done some investigations in some graveyards, and we've picked up on a vibe. I've been with other people who are more sensitive than I am, who have experienced some things. And we've said some protection prayers and things like that upon us leaving, just to make sure that we're safe, we're good, and that if anything did want to maybe come back with us, that it stayed there. Obviously, you're setting a good intention when you go in. You're not going in and desecrating the graves. You're doing quite the opposite, and you're paying respect to these people. Do you do any other kind of spiritual protection for yourself? Do you carry any sort of crystals or say any sort of prayers or anything like that?
Good
or you just
question.
go with the vibes?
Ooh, yeah.
So the answer is no. But I talk
Daredevil.
the entire time I am there.
Oh,
Um,
that's kind of cool. You have a conversation with them in
So-
case anybody's listening.
and yeah, I like I said, like I'm going in with the best intentions. So
That's
no, I
pretty
don't
cool.
do any like specific prayers, but I'll say hello and goodbye.
Well, I also think like spirits, in a sense, just like cats and dogs, I think they can tell like if you're a piece of shit or not when you're around.
I like to think so too.
Yeah.
So that is what I'll say
Nice,
about
nice.
that. I have looked into it, but I'm not that type of person who does a lot of that anyways. I respect it and I find it very interesting. And like I do think there's that power of intention will work one way or the other. But I haven't found my thing yet.
I got you. When you were doing
Besides the guy. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Nick.
just real quick question, and I guess maybe from like whatever, like I guess however you look at things and see it, was there any things that you cleaned up or you noticed like tombstones with like occult symbolism on it, or like secret society like Freemason stuff on it? I don't even know if you know if you were looking at it, if that was it. I'm just gonna be honest. You may not even know what
I
you're
haven't
looking
found
at.
anything like written or weird like that, but
Okay.
in one cemetery, I found runes made out in flowers. Clear. So like whenever the wind blew, they were gonna be gone. So I was there at the right time, I guess. That was interesting. One of the groundskeepers for the cemetery that I'm really involved with, he's told me about having to clean up a lot of chicken remains. Like chicken sacrifices are still huge, believe it or not. Then there was this one October when an entire altar was set up in one of our city cemeteries. We're talking like lamps and mirrors, and there were shells
Mirrors?
and
Oh, these people weren't playing
mirror,
around.
and
This shit was
then
serious.
a miniature like pinup doll type thing with a bunch of stuff pinned into it. It was
I guarantee you
interesting.
those mirrors were there to mind fuck some of the people that were there to actually believe something was going on that wasn't.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Something.
I
Guaranteed.
post a picture of it every now and then, and I always just get vastly different interpretations of it. So I don't have a nailed down reason.
No, that's interesting. Yeah, if you ever come
but
across
that's
that,
it.
look for mercury and batteries. Those are another culprits for people being shady and pulling off tricks that aren't real. Believe it or not, I know that sounds cheesy, but yeah, mercury, batteries, and magnets. You'd be surprised.
And mirrors.
I could put a magnet
Well-
on my wrist with a battery on the tip of it and hold the bottle cap in my hand. It will float. You guys will think I'm doing something. You got to watch out for charlatans out there.
My favorite is the Pepper's Ghost Illusion, where you've got the slanted glass inside of the container, and then when you're looking at it, it looks like there's a hologram or some sort of hologram inside the space. So this is what they always refer to on, Scooby-Doo and stuff, where they've got the image shown through the mirror and then it's refracted through the thing. But the Pepper's Ghost Illusion, if you catch somebody with one of those in the graveyard, you better get your camera out.
So let me hit you with Charlotte
Let's go for
specific,
it.
a ghost story, a true crime story, then a cryptid.
Nice,
And
nice.
I'm gonna blow through these for you.
Awesome.
So you said you wanted to visit Charlotte. To do so, you would have to stay at a hotel. Luckily, we have a haunted one right on Tryon Street, which is like the street that goes straight through Uptown. It was built in the late 1920s, opens in the early 1930s as like a condo building. It's called the Dunhill Hotel today, but back then it was called Mayfair Manor. And it had a bad reputation because it opened during the Great Depression. The top floors were the hotels, while the bottom were condos. And Charlotte is a banking city, so during the Great Depression, people would, lose their last dollar and then spend their last dime on a hotel room and then jump. and it happened a number of times, and that has stayed with the hotel, where it's a common ghost story where people will be in their room and they'll see through the window a shadow fall, to the point where the staff at the hotel can expect these calls and know how to walk a guest through it. If you were to go to the Dunhill today, they would tell you a number of different ghost stories. There is a woman in white who walks through the banquet halls who will disappear. When my friends investigated in the banquet hall, they actually heard someone say hello on a Facebook Live video during it. Typical both poltergeist activity that you'd find at a hotel, people saying doors slam behind them, lights flickering on and off. But the hotel always told the story of a ghost named Dusty, and they believed that Dusty was the spirit attached to a skeleton they found in the basement during their renovation in the 80s. So back in the 80s, the hotel was shifting hands. It was abandoned for 10 years. When they were doing the renovations, they found that someone had decomposed at the bottom of the elevator shaft. And then to this day, when things were happening, they would say, oh, that's Dusty, the elevator ghost. What's crazy, though, is, that story has been told for decades. Back in the summer of 2023, there was a police report that went out that the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department was reopening cold cases because they got access to this whole different new database of DNA. And they were running all these cold cases versus the DNA. Well, they had Dusty the Dunhill Ghost's bones. They ran it through this new DNA, and they got a hit from Mooresville, which is a town like 2 towns over, 30 minutes away. And we found out that the skeleton at the bottom of the elevator shaft was, in fact, his name was Odell Mundy. People called him Doc. He was a World War II vet. And even though he worked at a Belk in uptown Charlotte, he was homeless. And he would sleep in the Dunhill between his shifts. And I don't know how he got in the elevator shaft or what happened, and forensics didn't really say there was a cause of death. But that is where he died. And his family, who's still around in Mooresville, they finally got some closure about their family member who disappeared back in the 80s.
He was in the elevator shaft?
At the bottom of the elevator shaft.
Maybe the elevator fell on his ass, crushed him.
The bones weren't that crushed.
Oh, still, that's
Imagine being
crazy.
stuck down there and just like died from like starvation or whatever.
Either way, I'm taking the stairs.
Part of the renovations that they did change the stairwell. So now the stairs are where the elevator shaft was. In your best
As long
interest,
as I'm not stuck in the elevator, I'm okay with that. I could
Right.
deal with a ghost on the stairs, but if I'm stuck in the elevator with a ghost, I'm so out.
Turn
And
into
Brooke,
devil.
he was homeless, so even homeless ghosts, they stink. You're gonna get all type of homeless booty hole up in that elevator and just stinking. But that is so crazy because it, like, you tested the DNA and it was a real person. It wasn't Dusty, but it was Doc, which is close,
Doc.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
OD. So Dunhill, there's podcasts about it. You can listen to, or visit yourself, and the staff will tell you their own experience.
Is there any, not to get off of the topic of a hotel, because I know you said, if you're going to come to Charlotte, you're going to need a hotel. Is there any known Airbnbs that are haunted out there?
Man, I'm sure.
Sorry, I put you on the
But,
spot there.
So there's an apartment complex. It was called Tryon House, and I know at one point that there were Airbnbs ran out of it. But by no means is it a destination spot. The apartment itself is from the 1940s, and there was this big fire that same year, and a bunch of people did die. And like the lore was, if you're sleeping there, some people would have like dreams of like blood coming from the walls, or like they would hear thumping on the other side. There was a story of like a woman who would come up and pray next to your bed. Tryon House Apartments, they've changed the name, and I'm wondering if it's because I was telling the story too much. Like I was on the news talking about it, this apartment building that was actively leasing, so good on them.
It's so strange how ghost tourism simultaneously increases property values in some locations and decreases them in other locations.
Yeah. Yep.
I can't
don't blame
remember.
him.
I can't remember the place I stayed at, but Brooke knows, and so does Headless. You both know Ron from New England. When I went to go out by him to do like I guess our little ghost thing, that it was fun, but we got nothing. When I went to his house, I stayed at an Airbnb. I can't remember the name of it, but like I didn't even realize. I just booked the place, and I told Ron, and he's like, that place is known to be haunted, right? I was like, get the fuck out of here, and I looked it up, and I was like, yo, what's the odds of that?
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was thinking about setting up my equipment. I was like, maybe I'll get something out of here. I didn't out of Ron's. But yeah, it was a really nice place though. It was pretty cool as shit. Yeah, definitely.
All right, so I have my true crime story as well. Of course, we're a big city, so of course we have a notorious serial killer. I don't want to dwell too much onto it because I feel like you kind of have to go into the weeds when you're telling these stories to make sure you're being respectful. But he was known as the Charlotte Strangler, but also known as the Taco Bell Strangler. The reason for that is because he was working at fast food joints, and he would like go home with his female coworkers, and that's when he did it. And he did in the teens, all black women, and it took police forever to admit that there was something going on.
Yeah,
because it was all apartment complexes very close to each other, and they all were kind of connected. But he worked at Bojangles and he worked at Taco Bell.
Oh shit! There's a Bojangles up the block for me.
I love Bojangles.
And there's like
I
three
love
of them
Taco Bell.
in like
There
a
you
mile
go.
radius.
It's so funny. Our buddy JJ had a run-in with a serial killer at a Hardee's. So apparently,
That's
the
another
police
southern
were-
brand.
Right.
Yeah.
Yo, that's wild. Yeah,
He
yeah.
says, maybe I ate human burgers. He doesn't know.
Yeah, nothing like that. There have been documentaries about him. Called one was called Bad Henry. I think one's on Netflix now. But sad story.
You said now these were
But it
women that
comes up.
he worked with,
Yeah.
and
So
he was
they were-
sorry to start asking. It just got me interested on how he was even pulling this off. You said into the teens. Do you know like how he was luring? Like I'm just keeping it real. Was this guy some like Don whatever? He's pulling bitches back to his house that easily? I mean, what's going on here?
I think it was more of like,
Like, how did he pull that off?
They felt bad for him, and he was like the pushy coworker, like, "Oh, let's hang out after work."
Oh,
Let's hang out
all
after
right.
work."
No, I'm just wondering,
Yeah.
like, how's this dude getting all these chicks to keep going
He
back to his
offered
house?
them
I mean,
a cheesy gordita crunch and some cinnamon twists. He would
It
have
would
got my
I would fall
ass.
for it. Yeah.
I would have too. Quesarita, yes.
But he is still alive
Yes,
on
the
death
potatoes.
row in a prison in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Oh,
So he's
wow.
still out there. And that's something I like to remember when I post.
Yo, that is
to make
wild.
sure I don't piss any active serial killers off.
And you said
But
a lot of
anyways,
them are coming from
moving
like the
on.
same. Yeah, we'll go on. Yeah.
Wait, sorry, what you're saying?
Well, you said a lot of them are also coming from the same areas or the same apartment complexes too, right?
Yeah, same neighborhood.
That's interesting. I might have to
Yeah.
look at that actually one day. All right, thank you.
Yep, peace. But then a Charlotte cryptid story. So in
you go, bud.
Charlotte, right on the outskirts, there's Lake Norman. Technically Mooresville, but it's the largest man-made lake in North Carolina. And I don't know if y'all know this, but pretty much every lake we have in America is man-made. All for the dams is why they do it, so they can get their power. But Lake Norman is the largest in North Carolina. And since its creation in the 1960s, there have been sightings of a lake monster, of course. I am iffy on the idea of lake monsters. I think that there's probably a lot of huge things in there, but I think it's all things that are normal. Like if you've seen Gar, terrifying.
Yeah.
They have teeth. They were dinosaurs.
They also creepy
If-
looking mother.
They get up to 6 feet, and catfish can be freaking huge. But it brings up a lot of reasons why there could be a cryptid. Is number one, there is a nuclear power plant attached to the lake that uses the water to cool down its reactors. If you go on that reactor's website and you go through a labyrinth, you can finally find the reports that they're legally required to share, and there are leaks all the time. all the time. And there are like sewage leaks into the lake to the point where like there are these massive like announcements, don't go in the water and from this date to this date. And then of course it clears up for the 4th of July. And then of course it comes back right after the 4th of July. And then also, you know, like naturally blocking a giant river, the Catawba, there's got to be some type of natural consequences for that. I mean, we're messing with the way the world works. So whenever the Lake Norman monster is discussed, these are like kind of the fears that are attached with the lore and why people think that that's why we have a lake monster. Now, I won't dwell on that too much because, you know, everyone has their lake monsters, but that's ours. But another cryptid we possibly have, and this is just one of those wacky happenstances where I went to a live podcast recording at a deli, the fun types of events you'll find in Charlotte. And in that live podcast recording at a deli, the lady host was asking questions to the crowd because it was kind of like a game show. And she had 2 different guests that day. And each guest, she would ask them, like, have you ever experienced anything weird, unexpected that you couldn't explain? The 2 guests, they did not know each other. One was speaking like 45 minutes after the other, but they both answered the same way, saying the first guy said he was in the Starmont area of South End, which is a neighborhood in Charlotte, and he was driving down a road and he saw a cat walking into the middle of the street, and when the cat wouldn't move out of their way, they were honking at it. They tried to like skirt up to scare it, and when they did that, it sprouted wings and started attacking them and looked more like an owl. That happened, and he's like, I still can't explain it to the day. Yes, we were smoking, but like we understand reality. And they just couldn't explain it. Then 45 minutes, the next guest is talking, did not know the first person, and he's like, yeah, I haven't thought about it in years, but that guy reminded me. When I was walking down the metropolitan area of town, there was an active construction site. It was the middle of the night, and I was walking by a fence and I saw an owl on it, just creeping on it to the whole, like, you know, that neck is going to follow you, the whole 180. And as he got further past it, it went down on all 4s and started walking along the fence with him with his tail sprouted up. So it went from like full bird to full cat. And he was like, I've never been able to explain it. So I just happened to be in the room when 2 people were talking about a cat owl hybrid in Charlotte. And I've been talking about it and I post about it and I try to get people to tell me if they've seen it. On TikTok, a few people said that they've heard Appalachian lore about it. But on Instagram, nothing. So I may
Do
have.
they have a name for it?
So I've just been calling it the Charlotte Cat Owl, and I like that name.
Cat hole?
Cat Owl.
Cat owl.
Cat owl. Bird puss.
I guess in like Dungeons and Dragons or something, there's something called like the Meowl.
Yeah, there you go.
I like that.
Meow.
I want to be taken seriously in the cryptid community.
Yeah, so yeah, I guess you're not going to use that one though, unfortunately.
Yeah.
The Funko Pop that they make of it will be called the Owl or the Meow.
The Charlotte Hoots.
The Charlotte Hoots. Nah, Charlotte Cat Owl. And then
At least that explains
guy
exactly what
too.
you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? At least the name, you know what you're being told about. The cat owl.
And it's from Charlotte. You know, I gotta get it to stick.
Yeah.
Right.
It's all about the branding, you know?
Well, one thing about me is I'm big into cryptids, big into Bigfoot. I do research here in Florida and I go other places and research as well. And of course, with the territory comes other cryptids. And that's the first time I've heard of anything like that. When you were talking about the lake monster, it did remind me of a couple things. One, the lake in The Simpsons that has like the 3-eyed fish. It kind of reminded me of that. And also, you do hear a correlation. In Washington, it's called the Klickitat ape cat. I'm probably saying that wrong, but it's outside of a nuclear facility that's up there. And it's been reported by the locals as something that has a product of the nuclear waste in the waterways up there. So I have heard stories of those 2 things coexisting. But I'm going to have to look into this owl cat thing. That's really intriguing to me. I want to see if I can find anything on it.
Please do. Being completely honest, like when it comes to cryptids, I look at them more through the lens of like folklore. For most of them, like Bigfoot, I understand a lot of it. And I think that there's aspects that we don't understand, but like the other ones, like Mothman, like Wampus Cat, Chupacabra, those are modern day folklore. Those are no longer cryptids. No one is thinking that that's a specific species out there. We're talking about them like they're superheroes almost.
Well, why
and
can't they be nature spirits?
that's part of the conversation. So I'm saying like the way that we talk about them shows more about us than about them. I think it really reflects on like what our fears are. So like being affected by the nuclear power plant is a real thing, and we talk about it but by way of saying like, yeah, if a fish is too affected, it's going to turn into a monster, while also being like, yeah, of course I will swim in Lake Norman when I'm 6 beers deep on the 4th of July. Like, the same with like, yeah, that's my spiel is like the cryptids. It comes from a place of like, you're going to learn about that society who's coming up with these legends.
Well, I think even nature spirits are intensely influenced by the type of people around them too. So usually,
what do you mean by that?
It's only a certain type of person that usually interacts with these things, and they usually have multiple experiences, not necessarily downplaying their experiences, but it seems like they're attracted to certain types of people. I mean, you see this with the Bigfoot phenomena all the time. They're sort of, drawn to, I don't know, there might be a classification for that if people actually studied this seriously. But I think it has
actually,
to do
Headless, I agree with you, because my brother's one of those people. Like, if there's a UFO within 5 miles, that asshole sees it every single time. I've never met a person who has had more UFO encounters than my brother. And I have seen maybe one suspicious thing in the sky, but nothing like, it's like, there are certain people that just weird shit happens to them all the time, and it's easy for people to say, well, yeah, it happened to him, woo, he's fucking crazy. But like, I think you're right. There's like, some people are more sensitive to seeing ghosts, and some people are more I would love to see, because it reminds me of the fourth kind. They talk about the owl turning into something, and it ended up being extraterrestrial in nature. But
Yes.
I would be interested to see something like that for myself. I think it's curious.
Yo, even was the owl not in the fourth kind? Was that in Whitney Strieber's thing? The owl, or was that in?
It's all throughout UFO alien lore.
Yeah, no, I could be getting confused, but I think it might have been that Whitley Strieber movie as well. I can't remember the fucking name.
That's true. It was.
Yeah, and Twin Peaks.
Also got the phenomena of owls being associated with Bigfoots as well. There's like that's sort of like crossover between Bigfoot and aliens, is this owl kind of image that usually it's larger than average and it's got really creepy eyes, but it's slightly different from a normal owl.
But never turning into a cat, though. That's what makes this so interesting, right?
Yeah.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, that is a
Hell yeah.
story. Yeah, you've definitely got to. You might have to trademark that one.
Exactly right.
No, see, here's the thing. Nature spirits know who's been smoking. They know who's been taking LSD, and they know who they can get away with popping up in front of.
You think so?
Imagine sometimes they just troll people that are
With
stoned.
somebody on LSD?
Oh, I know.
Well,
probably
and
for sure.
I would.
I mean, I tend to think that those types of things do help, when taken in the appropriate amounts, help people connect with nature better. I personally believe that. It heightens some of your senses. You were to go take a microdose and maybe go out in the forest or something, I think you might feel a little bit more, connected spiritually to things. So I could totally see that. It enhancing that experience. Yeah.
There is also a lake monster where I grew up called Bessie. It's in Lake Erie, which is one of the Great Lakes. It wasn't like created or anything. So I tend to think maybe sometimes people see shit besides dead bodies in Lake Erie. There is a lot of stuff that pops up that's weird that's coming out of Lake Erie. So there could be, I mean, everybody, it's like he said, everybody's got their lake monster or whatever. But Yeah, I don't know. I tend to like to do like paranormal investigations and stuff. I don't even know how you would go about doing an investigation to see if there was a lake monster. I feel like you'd need like equipment from the Discovery Channel or something like that to even prove that that was a thing.
That's true.
That's the goal. That's the goal, is to get a
Really?
expedition.
Good for you.
Our boy Josh to come to Lake Norman.
Oh,
That's the goal.
Okay. I know who you're talking about. Nice. That'd be wild.
Yeah, man.
If
I
he
think,
can find something, then I'm a true believer.
I think there is something to the idea of the genus loci. That's what the Romans called it. It was the spirit of a place, you know, and that spirit of a place comes through in the images that you sort of see in front of you. So it's got.
Well, here, let me hit you with something spooky that will probably, I feel like you'll think it's a connection with that, but this will also close us out. But North Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina, that area, Mecklenburg County, is the site of the first gold rush before California. And it happened because a teenager's name was Conrad Reed was bow hunting in a river behind his house, and he found a 14-pound nugget of gold. And he didn't know what it was. That his family used it as a doorstop for 3 years before finally they were like, you know, it's shiny. We need money. Let's go over to Fayetteville, see if we can sell it. And after being swindled and then bringing guns and getting their money, they got like thousands of dollars for this gold nugget, and that kicked off this giant gold rush in North Carolina, as specifically the Charlotte area. And in Mecklenburg County, there were 75 active mines that are now abandoned underneath city limits. So we're sitting on top of Swiss cheese, but also that gold community was the reason why we had the mint moved to Charlotte during the Civil War, because we were printing money for the bad guys. And then now we are literally like the second Wall Street in the United States, right underneath New York. Like if 9/11 happens and Wall Street shuts down in New York, they're coming to Charlotte. We have Bank of America, we have Wells Fargo, for just these huge powerhouses of banks. And so it's kind of said that because of our history of gold, there is a like spirit of greed in Charlotte that's like the spirit of the place, like what you're saying. I don't feel that, but
It's
it can
kind
be
of the
said.
egregore. So an egregore is below a zeitgeist. The zeitgeist would be like a spirit of an age, and then an egregore is kind of like a thought form that's created by different groups of people.
Oh, this podcast.
So that idea that there could be this genus loci egregore of greed, I can totally buy into that.
A lot of mining towns are haunted too, by the way.
Right, but the first thing they did with this chunk of gold is try to swindle them. That leaves a mark.
Yo, right?
Yeah, they brought it to Fayetteville, and they were given $14 for it.
Oh.
And then instantly the guy was like, no, go back in there with a gun and demand more. And then he walked out with like thousands. So history would have been very different.
Yeah.
That kind of goes into our buddy Mike Wan's theory, is that the first stories of a place about certain stuff generally have an impact on the rest of how that place is seen.
Oh,
you know? So
yeah, that is very true.
When you add that folklore as an aspect to culture, you end up finding that it influences a lot more than just the mindset, behavior.
Well, I'll hit you with one more thing that I'll hold on to. But when the British came into town during the Revolutionary War, there was the Battle of Charlotte. They went into Uptown, and like the militia fought back, survived 3 volleys, even with like the minimal people. But then when they took over Charlotte, everyone in town was so hostile to them, like constantly just bombarding them with shit, not being like cooperative or during any of, they're trying to set up camp. Where Cornwallis, which if you saw The Patriot, he was like the main head honcho of the Revolutionary War. But he called Charlotte a hornet's nest of rebellion, because he was ready to get out because he was pissed off how unwelcome he was there. And now we have the Charlotte Hornets basketball team. And then also we are no strangers to rioting. So that spirit of rebellion has stuck with us. So I'll take that over the greed one any day.
Well, it's the perfect dichotomy.
Yeah. All right. That's all you need to know about Charlotte.
Spooky.
Make sure to follow the page Spooky CLT if you haven't already.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes,
I try to teach about history. Like if you don't like Charlotte, like if you keep up with my posts, you're gonna know a bunch of shit, and it's a good thing.
No, it's definitely interesting. Like I said, you do have a lot of even the history. There was things that I didn't know about. You know, you got me interested in wanting to go out there.
So you just need to have someone super passionate about making it sound interesting.
Yeah,
right.
That is true. That helps.
And a cheat code is making it a ghost story.
that always helps.
I agree.
Real quick, before we wrap it up, what are I know you said before you want to get expedition out there, but what are some of your goals or going forward? Do you have any things that you're trying to do or change up?
Want to write a book? For sure. I just applied this afternoon to be on the Historic Landmarks Commission, so I am trying to get more involved with local government. I'm already on the board of the cemetery that I'm always helping out at. So just trying to get more involved, get more people involved. Lately, I have been seeing more accounts that are Charlotte based doing videos about Charlotte history and ghost stories, and I'm like, great, this will make my work easy for me. I'm just trying to, my whole thing is as long as I'm having fun, I'm going to keep doing this. I'm still having fun. And I have fundraising goals for certain things. My October is already booked up for events with what I can handle. So I'm keeping busy.
Good for you, man.
It's just the goal is to always be having fun while I'm doing this. Because once it's not fun anymore, I'm not gonna want to do it.
You lose the passion, right?
Yeah.
No, I totally know what you mean, man. I totally know what you mean. That's awesome. Yeah, as long as it stays fun, I think you're kind of doing your will in a sense. So good for you.
Yep.
Real quick, do you want to remind everybody where they can find your stuff out again?
SpookyCLT.com or at SpookyCLT on Instagram. And I have been on a number of podcast episodes, and I try to tell different stuff, but sometimes it gets hard. If you just look on Spotify for Spooky CLT, you'll find interviews.
Awesome. And then real quick, we'll just let everybody plug their stuff as well. Julia, real quick, you want to remind everybody where they can find your amazing work, please?
Thanks for having me, Nick. Yeah, this was a really interesting one. I love all the creepy, spooky stuff. Cosmic Peach Podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. And thanks for having me.
Of course. No, thank you for coming on. And Brooke from Dark Florida, please let everybody know where they can find your amazing stuff.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Dark Florida Podcast. And this was an absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me on. And I got to learn so much, and I can't wait to look into more of what we talked about and keep doing what you're doing. I highly respect the work that you're doing up there and how you're honoring the dead and people who have passed on.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on, Brooke. I always appreciate it when you can make it. For real.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. And Headless Giant, sir.
Thank you so much, Spooky. I love the work you're doing. Historical preservation in a town that's, banker focused is one of the more important things you could be doing, because it's only so long until they get hungry for a new spot to set up shop. So
yeah, that's true.
It's real easy to keep.
You are not kidding.
No, you nailed it on the head.
It's real easy to keep history preserved out here in places like Black River Falls. We're known for the Wisconsin Death Trip. Have you ever heard of that? That Static X album? He called his album Wisconsin Death Trip because his friend had a book on the table that was documenting the troubles in around the 1910s. And so it was a book all about these people who were starving to death and shooting each other in the face because there was no more logging industry. It was horrible. It's kind of stayed that way ever since.
Seems like a good reason to shoot someone in the face. No more logs.
Yeah.
What?
Seems justifiable. Yeah. But thank you, Headless. Yo, you want to remind everybody about your Thursday show one more time?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you can you can email me your spooky stories and we'll analyze them on the show on Thursday nights. You can email me at headlessgiantpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Headless. Thank you so much, Brooke. And thank you so much, Julia. And Jason from Spooky CLT. Thank you so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. That was an awesome time.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, and please, the listeners, go check out his stuff. His links are in the bottom in his Instagram tag. And that is the end of another Occult Rejects. And until the next one, everybody be well.